Okay, let me know when we're good to go. Well, it's wonderful to be out visiting the major capital works going on in the area of 8 Mile Plains and Redlands today. I've already visited the 8 Mile Plains Satellite Hospital site, and shortly we'll be visiting the Redland Satellite Hospital site, and I'm here right now at Redland Hospital announcing the awarding of contracts for the Stage 1 Redland Hospital expansion and ICU, as well as the modular ward that we have committed to in this year's budget, which will see around 65 new beds come online within the next 18 months. And of course, that is on top of the 1,000 secure car parks that are right next to us that will be operational early next year as well. Stage 1 is a $62 million investment delivering 37 beds, and the contract has been awarded to ADCO to deliver on that construction with completion in the first half of 2024. The modular ward, the contract has gone to Hutchinson Builders, which will deliver 28 additional beds, which will be completed early 2023 with a commitment of $25 million. So this $87 million investment for 65 new beds over the next 18 months here at Redland Hospital, of course, is in addition to the extra beds that are going to be brought online in our accelerated program at the QE2 and PA Hospital, where we see another $30 million investment for another 36 beds over those two hospitals. That means across these three sites we will have 101 extra beds within the next 18 months, and within 5 years we'll have an extra 462 beds just across those three hospitals, and it doesn't include, of course, the significant expansion that is happening at the Logan Hospital. So I'm thrilled to see these works commencing and that we will see these beds coming online very quickly. We know that they are absolutely essential when you look at Redland Hospital and their demand, more than 55,000 presentations to their ED each year, and more than 30,000 patients being admitted to the hospital. So we know that this is a growth area. We know that we need to not just increase our health workers, which we have been doing since we came into government, but that we need to be expanding our bed capacity as well. And we're doing that both in the short term and also that long-term capital project investment to ensure that we have the beds in the future as well. Very proud of all of this work being done and these commitments, and I want to thank the local members, of course. Minister D'Ath joining me here today, but of course Don Brown and Kim Richards, who have advocated for further investment in this local hospital because of the demands from their community, to ensure that they don't need to travel to our larger tertiary hospitals and they can get those services right here. Of course, the Redland Satellite Hospital, which is underway now. The great news is that'll be delivering services. Of course, all of our 7 satellite hospitals will have minor injury and illness clinics, which means they don't need to turn up to EDs to our other major hospitals, and they can go to the satellite hospital. But other services like dialysis, oncology, mental health, wounds management, those sorts of services will be delivered at many of our satellite hospitals. And it's great that we have done the 6 of the 7 satellite hospitals have now had their sod turn, with only Bribie Island left to do. So it's great to see that work underway. I do want to just give an update, of course, when it comes to COVID. We've got 285 hospital beds being taken up by COVID patients today. So that is still seeing an increase in what we saw just a week and a half ago when we announced that we are going to an amber alert. And I thank the public for listening to their advice, for those who are particularly vulnerable, wearing their masks. And of course, that means when visiting hospitals again, inside the hospitals, we should be wearing masks just to ensure that we're keeping our staff and the most vulnerable, being our patients, as safe as possible. Overnight, I've also announced that I made a decision in relation to the Mackay Hospital and Health Service Board. I had given a show cause at the end of September after receiving the report into the obstetrics and gynaecology unit at the Mackay Base Hospital. I'd given a show cause to the board as to why they shouldn't be dismissed. They had sought an extension on that, and after receiving their initial responses, I sought further information and responses to a range of issues from those board members. I've taken the last couple of weeks to go over those responses and reached a conclusion that I do believe it's in the public interest that the board be dismissed and an administrator, Karen Roach, be appointed for the next 9 months to oversee a newer board being appointed, and also the recommendations from the report being implemented and work being done to look at the cultural issues across the entire base hospital and the executive leadership of the HHS. The interim chief executive, of course, is doing a great job in working with many of the women who came forward, but there is much work still to be done, and I need to make sure that I've got a board that's got the skill set and that I have confidence that can deliver on that reform that needs to happen in that HHS. I'll now ask Minister D'Ath to say a few words, and Don and Kim, and then happy to take some questions. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Minister. It's terrific to have the Health Minister here in the Redlands community. As a representative of parts of the Redlands, I'm incredibly excited about the new capacity being delivered here at the Redlands Hospital and, of course, the new satellite hospital. Our investment in health capital is almost $10 billion, and so here in this community we've got national iconic construction companies like Woolham's, Adco and Hutchison's now working to deliver the buildings, the car parks, the satellite hospitals that our community deserves. It's also supporting, of course, thousands of jobs right across Queensland. I want to acknowledge every tradie that's turning out today to deliver these significant buildings, these significant institutions that will provide the most high quality care and services for patients and people that call the Redlands home. Thanks very much.
Thanks. This is fantastic news for Redlanders. The investment here at Redlands Hospital in the car park, in the ICU, additional bed wards is absolutely fantastic. The satellite hospital is absolutely going gangbusters out there on site. It is perfectly located to service this really unique electorate of islands and a growing southern Redlands. So I'm extraordinarily proud to be here with the Health Minister today in delivering for our Redlands community.
Thank you, and can I start by thanking the Minister for coming out here today. Obviously we're seeing so much construction work here, but we're going above and beyond what we promised at the last election in regards to the delivery of beds. 65 beds here at Redlands Hospital, a whole new satellite hospital down at southern Redlands, and also a car park as well. And this is in stark contrast to David Christofouli and the LNP in their last term. They shut down Wynnum Hospital, they shut down Moreton Bay Nursing Clinic, built no infrastructure here at Redlands Hospital, putting great amount of pressure in this local community to pick up the slack that was taken away due to their savage cuts. And I'll be reminding voters all the way up in the next two elections about who is investing millions and millions of dollars on 65 new beds here at the hospital, a new satellite hospital and a brand new car park. Stark difference. Investment in healthcare, and as a former hospital worker myself, it's a passion of mine about delivering the health services in this local area, and also demonstrating the stark difference between David Christofouli, who cuts health services on the Bayside, and us who deliver them.
Questions?
Minister, can you elaborate why you thought it was in the public interest to sack the board? Like, do you think it'll improve healthcare for the people in Kai, or
I just, and I'm mindful of, providing procedural fairness to the board, and I've given them their reasons. I think it's fair to say that I just don't believe that there is the skill set needed across the entire board, and a willingness and acknowledgement of what could have been done and what should have been done over the last few years. Not enough work being done to deal with any systemic issues leading up to what the report showed from 2019 to 2021, and to recognise the problems across the leadership and the need for cultural change across the hospital.
Do you think the board is toxic?
I wouldn't say that at all. I think as individuals, I think that they're absolutely committed to their communities. They wanted to do the right thing. What has happened hasn't happened out of malice, but the fact is it did happen. It did happen under their watch, and people have to be accountable for that. I have personally apologised for what happened to these women and their families. I have ensured that we have taken strong action in issuing the show cause. We have had doctors suspended and removed from the hospital. We have an interim chief executive in, and now we will have a new board coming in. I think the public expect us to do everything possible to make sure that they can have confidence in their hospital and in their hospital and health service going forward, and I need to make sure that I've got the best board with the skills needed to do that work.
Would there be a prospect of any of these people who are on the board who have just been sacked reapplying and being on the next board?
Look, certainly they're entitled to apply as individuals, but I'm not going to make any decision. Those processes go through panels and recommendations are made to me, but I have made a decision that collectively the board has to be held accountable for what has occurred under their watch.
There's a criticism directed at you. How much accountability do you need to take for this, and how much accountability does the board need to take for it?
I am absolutely taking accountability for this. I've stood up, I've apologised, I've met with these women, I've made myself available to that community to work with these women to hear directly from what is the most horrific stories. They were horrific. If anyone could have sat through and listened to what had happened to these women without being, emotionally moved, then you wouldn't have a heart. Like, honestly, it was really disturbing. And what ministers must do is act. When you become aware of these facts, you must act, and that's what I'm doing.
In March, you wrote that these people had a proven record as board members and would continue to ensure the ongoing delivery of excellent health services to Mackay residents, and it was great to have them continue in their positions.
In March, I didn't have a report showing dozens and dozens of women being harmed physically, emotionally, permanently.
Concerns were raised in 2021. The hospital had already lost its obstetrics training licence. A review had been initiated.
But I didn't have all the information that I had before me. I didn't have enough information to act on the board at that stage, I don't believe, to ensure that I could back in the decision I've made. And I absolutely back in the decision I've made. The information I have, the information that has come to me as far as what has occurred and what the board should have done or should have been aware of, or what action they could have taken to be more aware of what was happening in their hospital and the hospital health service, has to be acknowledged.
I understand you may not have had all the information, but was there any inkling? Because this is a pretty glowing endorsement.
I can't just sack a board on an inkling.
I know, but you gave them a glowing endorsement. You could have not given them the glowing endorsement and said we're looking into it further.
But I didn't have the information then that I do have now.
The investigation was underway. There were allegations that had already emerged.
But I didn't have the information I have today that came out of this report. Yes, there were allegations, serious allegations, but I can't sack a board just on allegations. I have to consider the circumstances and what has been factually identified and give them the opportunity, as a sign of natural justice, give them the opportunity to respond to those allegations as well.
Allegations warrant a glowing report?
Well, the advice I had at the time and what was aware of, I thought the board was doing a good job. But the information that has come to light, the details and the factual information that has been confirmed through this report cannot be ignored.
The obvious questions are, though, you've given them a glowing endorsement in March. There was nothing in those early complaints that warranted you to look further or find more information that would make a difference in the glowing endorsement that you gave them.
Well, we did. We did look further. It's got a Part 9 report, a comprehensive report that is scathing on the hospital service. And I do acknowledge that the report itself says that that the senior medical team were not feeding the information up to the chief executive of the board. But what I have to look at is what was the board's obligation to also look at what they were aware of, what issues were coming to their attention, and it is only through the information I've received, both through the report and the show cause responses, that I'm aware of what they did initiate and what action they did or didn't take to follow up on issues. And all of that has formed part of my decision. I don't dismiss a board lightly. You know, it is a tough job. It is a tough job to oversee significant budgets and to deliver on a health system that we know is under significant pressure. So I'm not going to dismiss a board until I've got all the factual information in front of me that warrants such a response. But this is the right decision. It's what the public expect, and it's what the women who have been harmed deserve.
Are you happy with how Onco handled everything, given they had complaints back in 2021?
Look, it's not for me to respond to the Office of the Health Ombudsman. They have an important job to do, and you know, they need to get on with that job. If there's failings in anything they're doing, I will point to that as well. The regulators are not beyond scrutiny either. Our regulators, national, state, all have to ensure they're delivering on the complaints that are coming before them, the timeliness of response. That's not a criticism of any of them, but as the Health Minister, where there are failings, I will acknowledge it and I will call it out.
And when did you arrive at the decision, and when did you make the recommendation?
So I made the decision late last week. It went to Cabinet yesterday morning. I asked for a special Executive Council meeting so that I could act on it straight away. That occurred yesterday afternoon with the Governor, and I advised my office and the department advised the board members late last night, or yesterday afternoon.
The opposition has criticised the timings, accused of being an attempt to break the media cycle. What do you say to that?
The LNP complain when they think I'm acting too slow. They complain when I'm allegedly acting too fast. The fact is the LNP just complain. That's all they do. They just complain. I'm getting on with my job. I'm delivering the capital and the beds that we need. I'm employing the staff that we need. I'm working with stakeholders as to how we deal with the pressures and find new ways to innovate and reform our health system, which absolutely needs reform. For a free public health system to survive in this country, we need reform to ensure it's sustainable. And those are the conversations we're having with the Commonwealth. Those are the conversations that every state and territory are having to look at their systems and ensure how do we make sure that we can still provide a state-of-the-art free health service to the public. And that's what we're doing. We mustn't forget that we look after over 1 million people come through our doors every year. Our health workers do an amazing job under incredible pressure, including COVID. What we have to do is make sure they've got the resources. And since 2015, we have proven time and time again that we will invest in the health system. We will work with them, we'll listen to them. And only last week, I attended a mental health and wellness summit for our health workers, asked for by the AMA and attended by the unions as well as many representatives across the public health system. Because we need to look after the health of our workers so that they can look after the health of the community. And I know our staff are exhausted and fatigued, and we need to give them all the support that we possibly can.
Are there still investigations going on into clinicians at Mackay-based hospital? The Ombudsman was looking into a handful or so, or one of
I'm aware of other complaints that are going forward, yeah. And can I say, and this has been part of the problem, this is a cultural problem that we've seen identified in this report and elsewhere in the health system. This is a conversation I'm having with leadership, with board chairs and chief executives across the health system, that the culture has got to change, that it is not acceptable that staff feel like they can't speak up, or when they speak up they're not being heard, and patients need to be heard and listened to. And the fact that that some women are only coming forward now after years of harm potentially in the health system, says we need to do more to improve the way that the public can raise issues, but importantly our staff, because our staff have a duty of care as well. When they see something being done wrong in the workplace, they are to speak up. And every level of leadership across the Queensland health system has to listen. And if they don't listen, then that's on them. That is absolutely on them. And there will be action taken, because it is unacceptable to become aware of issues like what we saw at Mackay Base Hospital and sweep it under the carpet. It will not be tolerated.
Minister, just on the DNA inquiry, in September you said you were hoping to have the exact number of DNA samples which were accepted. Have you got that figure now?
We do have a summary of the numbers. I don't have them on me today, so I'm happy to get those. There's different groups, so we've obviously identified the ones that the statements relate to. So that was the interim decision where we had to issue new statements to the court. So we've identified them, and we've also identified other samples that didn't have statements made, either because cases were not progressed or people weren't charged in the first place. Police are going through all of that to identify whether they relate to ongoing cases, so they're all being prioritised as we speak. First priority, are they ongoing cases? If they're active cases right now, they're the first priority to get them further tested to see if there's any DNA that can be identified, and then going through the list around any historic cases, but also those ones where individuals were not charged or prosecutions were not progressed because the finding or the statement that there was no DNA or insufficient DNA. So happy to follow up and provide that additional information shortly.
Mr. De Brenny, there's been some criticism levelled at the appointments on the QBCC board, in particular Jim Varghese' recommendation when he went back, and I'll find his exact quote, which was, stakeholders believe the composition of the QBCC board, there's questions whether the QBCC board fully represented the industry and had the necessary expertise to govern the QBCC. There's been criticisms that there isn't enough construction expertise on the board. What do you say to that?
I haven't heard those criticisms. I'm very confident in the new appointments. They'll do a good job.
And the other question is links to the Labor Party with the new chairperson. Was that taken into account at all?
We don't take into account people's political links. We take into account their expertise. The chair has been the deputy chair for a long time. I think it was a good idea to have some stability in the board. We've assembled a good team. They'll do a good job at implementing the Varghese review. We're getting on with the job of building our state. There's never been a better time to be in the construction industry. There is so much work going on. More homes getting built, more hospitals getting built, more schools, you name it. This Building Commission board will do an excellent job.
There's plenty of people out there who disagree that they are doing a good job. What do you say to those criticisms?
I think those criticisms come from a very small minority of the population with an axe to grind. Most Queenslanders have a very successful experience when they're building a home. Most developers work very closely with builders. Most tradies get paid on time in full because of the reforms that the Building Commission is implementing for us. We will hear the LNP and some small minorities complain about regulators. They always do, but we have full confidence in the board that we've appointed. They'll start work at the end of this month.
Anything else?
Terrific.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.